Hello everyone and welcome along to today's video. It is, as you can see, my final video on Series 1 of Class, where I'm just going to give you a few final thoughts and my overall opinion on the first series of the Doctor Who spin-off, Class. Now first off, apologies I didn't upload anything last week. I've been starting a new job and had training for that and stuff, so I was just super busy last week. I barely had a day rest last week, so I really just didn't have time to do any videos. So apologies, I would have ideally done this about a week ago, but I still wanted to get to do it just to finish Class off, as it were. So today I'm just going to sort of think about what worked in Class overall, what didn't, my final few thoughts before we get on to Doctor Who, because it's only less than 2 weeks away, so I felt that it was about time to just wrap up Class and then focus on Doctor Who, finally. So in terms of Class, I think overall I enjoyed it a fair amount. I thought it sort of had its ups and downs. It was definitely a mixed series as a whole, the first series. I would kind of compare it to Series 1 of Torchwood, where there was some great episodes and some terrible episodes and some just solidly in the middle episodes. It wasn't consistent in that sense, which I think matches Torchwood Series 1 as well. It sort of had a good first episode, a good last episode, the odd good one in the middle, but then there were just a few sort of more average ones and not great ones in there as well. So it was a little bit all over the place, I felt. Obviously only having 8 episodes as well, I think didn't really help the series as a whole, because the problem, well, clearly it wanted to be fairly arc heavy and focus on the arc of the Shadowkin, and therefore, and with only having 8 episodes, you need to make them a proper threat and to have them be the whole sort of villain of the series. You need to have them in quite a few episodes. So you suddenly end up with half of the series being purely Shadowkin episodes. So episode 1, the 2-parter of episodes 4 and 5 and episode 8 are all about the Shadowkin, and that only leaves you 4 other episodes that aren't about the Shadowkin, so then you kind of lose that variety of stories and stuff when you've only got those 8 episodes of a series. So I think that it could have done with maybe 2 or 3 more episodes, just so that it didn't have to feel like so much of the series is taken up with the Shadowkin, which I didn't think was a terrible idea. I thought it was quite an interesting one. I mean, to some degree they were your kind of standard villain of Doctor Who series and all the big baddie and whatever, but they did have quite a nice idea with this whole invading through shadow and all this sort of thing, and then they actually did some killing as well, which always helps. And they were clearly meant to be the arc, but it just meant that to some degree the series was almost too dominated by that. I think that it's just, yeah, I would just liked if there were just a few more standalone stories than what we got. Because I mean, even when we did get standalone stories like episodes 2 and 3 with the Coach with the Dragon Tattoo and Night Visiting, they weren't really that great. They were just a bit sort of bog standard and not that interesting, from my point of view at least. I mean, episodes 6 and 7 were better, certainly. They were a little bit more experimental, I think would be a good word to describe them, and just sort of more interesting overall. But yeah, I just would have liked a few more stories in there than just Shadowkin, and the odd other one. Now, looking at the sort of setting of the series, the idea was it was set in Coal Hill School, or now become Coal Hill Academy, and it would revolve around these 5 school children and a teacher in Miss Quill. And did they really stick to that with the school? Not really. I mean, although it's meant to be set in a school, it didn't really feel like the series needed it to be set in a school. It just needed to be set in a school because we have school children, or a sixth formers, whatever you want to call them. Not because they were going to really use the school very much, unlike the Sarah Jane Adventures, which used the school a little bit more from what I remember. I mean, I haven't seen it in forever. But from what I remember, it did use it a little bit more in other just school-based dramas like Waterloo Road, which are based in a school, and therefore have the school dominating it. But it felt like, other than episode 1, which was clearly set in a school, and you had all the prom stuff and all this kind of thing, and it felt like it kind of needed to be set in a school, after that, it just was almost kind of a place for the main characters to congregate, essentially, and for the odd scene in a classroom. That was about it. It just didn't really feel like they'd really utilised the school setting as much as maybe they could have done, and we didn't really focus on any other characters as well. There was the 5 main characters, and they were the only school kids that had speaking parts pretty much through the whole of the 8 episodes. It just, to me, it felt like, because I quite like school-based dramas like Waterloo Road, and I just preferred if we'd had a little bit more going on at the actual school, rather than just the place where they congregate and seeing lots of places around the local area of London, wherever they are. I can't remember exactly where in London they are, but locally around there, which is sort of various streets around London, their homes, and occasionally in the school. That to me I felt was a little bit of a letdown when you're building up as this whole, it's set in Coal Hill School with this tear in space and time and all these school children having to fight alien threats that are coming to the school, and then they didn't really come to the school that much, really, so. But that's just how my thoughts on it. Now, in terms of the actual characters of the series, I thought that was probably one of the better points of the series. Certainly, I think all the main characters all did a very good job. I mean, all the main actors, of course, they did a very good job of portraying the characters, and they were all relatively interesting characters. And also what Patrick Ness did, which was quite well, which was hats off to him, is kind of worked the relationship quite well. Because when you have 5 main characters and kind of having the idea of a group of 5 friends kind of thing. Often in dramas and stuff you end up with them all being equally friends with each other, as it were, but in reality, even if you've got 4 or 5 best friends, as it were, you're always closer to one of them generally than the rest of them, and I thought that was portrayed quite well through the series in terms of them sort of some being closer to others. I mean, initially it was Ram and Tanya being quite close, then Matthias came along and he got up with Charlie, and then Ram moved over to April a bit, and then Tanya got left on her own, and that was kind of the whole she's lonely idea, but obviously that's just general teenagers a little bit. But then it focused on the whole her being the lonely kind of one left out, the little child of the group almost because of her age and everything, which I thought was quite nicely developed, as well as the way some people, I imagine, teenagers feel a bit. So I guess, yeah, I'd say teenagers can kind of feel like that a bit. So I think that was good writing for Patrick Ness to be able to have that and to be able to maintain 5 main characters. Clearly was a challenge, and at times the characters were left doing barely anything, but that's just what happens when you have 5 main characters, that sometimes there's going to be one of them left out in an episode because you really just can't write that many main characters in every single episode. So. But I won't really hold that against me too much because it's such a difficult thing to do, really. And also mentioning Miss Quill, she was a welcome addition to the series. One of my I think she was probably my favourite character of the series. I just really like sort of her witty remarks and just the way she was throughout the series. I think was quite an entertaining, a very different sort of character to all the others. Quite entertaining. We were never quite sure whether she was the villain or not. Clearly she has a bit of a dark side, I think you would say. But at the end she does seem to kind of help Charlie out. So I think she's kind of the classic, oh, she's evil but she's got a bit of good in her as well sort of thing. I mean, I'm not really sure where we'll go with her if Series 2 happens, because she's kind of massively pregnant. And once Aquila's pregnant, when they give birth, they die. So I'm struggling to see quite where that's going to go, but I'll get on to future prospects fairly soon. And finally, just focusing on some of the other more wider range characters, we had lots of family members, which was a nice change up to recent Doctor Who, to have Ram's dad, April's mum and dad, Tanya's mum, that was about it. But to have a fair few sort of family members and parents, I think was a nice change up and something feel a bit more Russell T Davies era style, and just sort of, I feel, make the characters more grounded and makes them feel kind of more relatable to when you have a whole family around them, so you feel like you can put them in their place rather than just in Doctor Who. As much as I love the recent companions of Doctor Who, it does feel like they're almost superhuman in that, well, particularly Clara is almost superhuman and not really that connected to the Earth, and more difficult to identify with in that sense because they don't have that connection, I think. So that was a nice return to have that sort of thing. I do hope that Chris Chibnall introduces that into Doctor Who when he comes in, because I think that's something that really can be of benefit to the show, both shows as a whole, really. And so just focusing on some of the final plot lines of the series, we had the whole stuff with the Shadowkin and about them, April's heart and the whole, then her sharing her heart with the Shadowkin leader Coriolanus, and then the Shadowkin coming back at the end and being killed but killing people and blah blah blah, all of it sort of... Lots going on there. It was quite interesting. I quite liked the Shadowkin plot. I mean, yeah, I think I quite liked it overall. It was quite a nice sort of resolution in the end. It was obvious that Charlie was going to use the Cabinet of Souls pretty much from episode 1. As soon as we get told about the Cabinet of Souls, then see it's not actually empty, it's fairly clear it's going to happen. Then he nearly uses it in episode 5 and then doesn't, and then by episode 8, that's going to happen. He survives somehow. I mean, April dies, sort of. Well, she does die. I mean, that was kind of unexpected that she was going to die. I guess you could look at it from early on seeing, oh, she's got her heart stuck with a Shadowkin leader, surely that's going to have some bad ramifications at the end of the series, because it was sort of, she had her odd moment where she'd go, ugh, sort of thing. But other than that, she was pretty fine, well, except episodes 4 and 5, then, when she ended up fighting the Shadowkin leaders and destroying the Coriolanus, seemingly, but not actually killing him, which was not a great move. So that whole plotline played out. I think that's done, that plotline. I mean, the Cabinet of Souls, that massive light beam stuff, all the souls, destroyed, looked like all the Shadowkin, completely wiped them all, obviously except for the one that April becomes, but that's another matter. So it looks like they're all pretty much done. I'm not really sure how they're going to work out April being a Shadowkin. I don't think they can afford the CGI to be able to run that throughout the series, so I'm struggling to see how they're going to bring her back in a significant capacity, because I don't think they can afford it more than anything. And just to have that like that, I don't know how that's going to work, to be honest. I really don't know how they'll make that work if there is a series 2, which at this stage I have no idea. Patroness on Twitter has implied there will be, but who knows. And one of the other main plot points has been the governors, which wasn't really resolved, just made more questions with the whole Weeping Angels, the arrival thing. Will that be addressed in Series 2 of Class? Will it be addressed in Series 10 of Doctor Who? I don't really know. Personally, I would prefer it to happen in Series 10 of Doctor Who. I think it would be quite good if we had a sort of, for Moffat's last hurrah, I think it would be quite fitting for him to do a whole Weeping Angel, massive Weeping Angel, timey-wimey story kind of thing going on for the Series 10 finale. I think that would be a really good link to Moffat's creation, the thing that kind of put his name up in lights almost, the Weeping Angels. For him to do his final few episodes all around that, I think would be brilliant. It's been perfectly set up in Class to have this whole sort of, it looks like sort of some sort of alien invasion of London with the Weeping Angels, but I'm sure there's more to that with the governors in league with them. Clearly it's not going to end well for the governors, it never does in that situation. But I hope that we bring it in, because then it gives the opportunity as well to bring the cast of Class, there's a tongue twister for you, into Doctor Who for the end of the series, even if it's just in a very small capacity, a bit like end of Series 4 Doctor Who, where we had everybody back then. We can bring Unit back in for the finale, we can bring the Class cast back in, we can have obviously Doctor and Bill, and just bring all the sort of Moffat era characters, maybe somehow get the Vastra and Cohen as well. Just kind of have a last hurrah of all the sort of great characters of the Moffat era, bring them in for the Series 10 finale, revolving around a Weeping Angel sort of invasion style story, which I think would be really good. So hopefully the arrival, whole Weeping Angel plotline gets addressed in Series 10 of Doctor Who, but if not, I'm not sure whether it's hard to understand the reasoning if they're not going to do it in Doctor Who, because it feels like, why would you do it in Class if you're not going to do it in Doctor Who? With the Weeping, I can understand with all the new villains and stuff to do it in Class, but Weeping Angels, I just can't really see how we're going to have a whole series dominated by Weeping Angels in Class. Then it brings up the age-old problem with, do you want kids to watch Class? Obviously you don't. I mean, Doctor Who's Twitter account and social media painfully always has to put, it's Class, the new young adult spin-off, not for kids, every time they comment about it, just to make it absolutely clear, it's not for kids, it's a young adult spin-off, which is a bit painful to read every single time. So if you suddenly start chucking Weeping Angels in there, I know we had 10 minutes of the Doctor, which probably wasn't a great idea, but then you put the Weeping Angels in as well, and suddenly kids are going to want to watch it because it's Weeping Angels, and then you're not going to be able to watch it, and it's all just a bit difficult. So I think it would make more logical sense to have it happen in Series 10 of Doctor Who, maybe have a little recap or some sort of prequel mini-clip or something. Do some sort of thing to link it to Series 10 of Doctor Who, I don't know, like a sort of release a prequel that's basically the clip from Class. Because that clip alone you could use from Class for kids, because it's not anything too brutal or graphic. I mean, there's Dorothy gets killed, but you don't see anything, so they get away with that. We've done that in Doctor Who before. So just purely that clip could be used in Doctor Who. So maybe you use that in a prequel or a clip or something to just lead into the finale for Series 10, and then bang, we're off for the whole Weeping Angel finale, and I think it'd be fantastic. So that's what I hope happen for the future. I mean, one of the problems with the finale of Class, Series 1, was that it was an American-style finale where you leave it on a cliffhanger, you leave it massively open-ended, and I don't really like that. I don't mind the odd open question, but it kind of felt like the finale was almost setting up another finale, as it were. So a sort of, oh, we've defeated one plot point, but now let's set up another massive plot point for the next series to be defeated, and then by the end of Series 2 we'll have another one for Series 3. And it just felt a bit like that, rather than really putting a close to things and having the Shadowkin. So I feel like we shouldn't have had the stupid thing with April becoming Corachinus. That was just a bit stupid. And Americanised, and just, yeah. And then with the Weeping Angel thing, maybe we should have had one shot of the Weeping Angel as the final shot of the series, or something, but not a whole sort of scene about the arrival and preparing for it and all this kind of thing. I just don't think that it just leaves it a little bit too open-ended for my liking. I'd prefer to just close it all off a bit. So what is there for Class Series 2? What's going to happen? I mean, I've said about the Weeping Angel stuff, but I feel like we're in quite a difficult position for Class Series 2. I mean, well, from practical aspects, the viewing figures are terrible, essentially. I mean, less than 200,000 people watched the first couple of episodes online, which is pretty poor. It really is poor. I mean, the original Tortured episodes back on BBC Three, way back when, they were at least getting sort of 1.5 million, which was just about bearable. But to be scraping a couple of 100,000 people is not good at all. Apparently it's going to air early next year on BBC 1 or 2 late at night or something. It's going to be like a 10 PM slot, so that's going to be terrible for viewing figures. Most people who want to see it will have already seen it. I'm not going to rewatch it. I'll buy the DVD. I won't rewatch it on BBC One. So I sense purely on viewing figures, there's not a positive future for Class. Maybe the BBC will give a bit of hope for it, put a bit of faith in it, because it has had decent reviews overall. I mean, maybe the viewing figures haven't been great, but the reviews of it have been quite good. Overall, there's been a fairly positive reception, I would say, within the fandom and within sort of media and stuff who have actually bothered. But just generally, people don't know it exists is the biggest problem. The marketing was poor, and it's not on a TV channel. People just don't flock to BBC iPlayer and the BBC Three Online to watch stuff. That was just a terrible decision by BBC way back a year ago, and now is sort of showing that with Class getting terrible viewing figures is just the facts of it. So, and I don't really understand why they didn't show Class sort of on BBC TV at the same time as they showed it online. Because I know with one of their BBC Three's flagship dramas, which was called 13, check it out if you haven't, it's a great drama, 5-episode drama thing, just search 13. That aired back in sort of February and March, and what they'd do is they'd release the episode on BBC Three Online on a Sunday lunchtime, and then sort of the following, I think Friday night or Saturday night, they'd show the episode. So then you're still picking up a decent amount of viewing figures on the TV by not having it sort of too much after the series has aired, or the episode has aired, but still for people who are really into it properly, be able to watch it online straight away. I think that would have been a much better solution than trying to sort of just put it online and then show it 6 months later on TV. It's just not going to work. So I think they need to think again about how they show and market this series if they're going to do another series. So that's all not very positive, and I struggle. And looking at the actual aspects of the sort of plot of the series, you've got this open-ended Weeping Angel thing. Is it going to happen in Series 10 of Doctor Who? Who knows? If it does, then clearly that stuffs Class a bit more. And there's also the problem with all the characters having huge amounts of emotional baggage. I mean, so you've got Ram, who's lost his dad, Rachel in the first episode, and his latest kind of girlfriend, April. You've got Tanya, who's lost her mum. You've got Charlie, who's just killed all his people and feels absolutely hating himself and wants to die. You've got Matthias, who kind of is probably hating Charlie a little bit now because of what he's done. And you've got Miss Quill, who's about to die because she's going to give birth. It's all quite difficult to get out of those 5 plot points there, those 5 characters. April's dead, obviously, which doesn't help either. So that's, and she's now a Shadow King, which I've said really is going to be a problem for the series. So I'm struggling to see what they're going to do there, because we're either going to end up weighed down for half a series with all the emotional and depression of all the teenagers crying over their family. Obviously you would in real life, but it doesn't make for great sci-fi drama in that sense. You've either got to sort of skip a whole year and kind of just ignore the emotional baggage of it, or just say they sorted themselves out. Or you get a whole new set of main cast, which I think they'll have to do fairly soon if they carry on. Because the problem with having it set in a sixth form is sixth form lasts 2 years. That's it. And essentially we've already had 1 year of sixth form, because by the time the series comes, series 2, if there is one, comes out, it'll be a year's time. And that's your second year of your A levels, then you're done. That's it, you go to uni or whatever, and then you're done with the academy thing. So there's very much only a 2-year cycle for any of the main characters because of how long a sixth form lasts. So if you get a Series 3 Class, they're going to have to refresh the whole characters, otherwise it doesn't make any logical sense in terms of sort of a school context. It just takes away from it being in a school even more. I mean, there's barely been any focus on school work or exams or anything like that, other than the throwaway comment. There's been nothing on that. So I really don't know how Patrick Ness plans to set about Series 2. I'm sure he'll work it out if it does happen, but I'm struggling to see quite which way they'll go and what they'll do, because there's so much emotional baggage. There's so many kind of unresolved plot points and complicated things that have gone on, and the show's had a poor reception in terms of viewing figures. So it's very negative, but I'm really struggling to see how Series 2 is going to work. So otherwise I'm going to ramble on for so long, otherwise this video's going on a bit. So finally, just to sum up everything, Class Series 1, it was good, it was solid, it was up and down, a few high points. Episode 1 I really enjoyed, Episode 8 I really enjoyed, the 2-parter in the middle I really enjoyed. Basically the Shadowkin stuff, those episodes I felt worked really quite well. The other episodes were solid to sort of meh, very average kind of thing. There was all a bit all over the shop. Inconsistent would probably be the word of the series, I think. Series 2, is it going to happen? Based on viewing figures, I'm struggling to see how. I think the BBC it's an expensive programme for BBC Three to make. That's an expensive programme. I know it's not going to be made by BBC Three, but for programmes that are shown on BBC Three, it's an expensive production. So if there is another series commissioned, that shows the BBC putting a lot of faith in their show and in Patrick Ness and co to be able to get this properly working, and the BBC's marketing company as well, to actually market the show properly, I think would be a good start. So I don't think it's out. I think Series 2 could happen. I'm sure there'll be a small section of the fandom sort of crying their eyes out if it doesn't happen. Not naming any names, but I think we know a few who those are. So who knows for sure, but I think that we'll know soon, because realistically they'll want to have the series air early in sort of this time next year, really, because then Doctor Who Series 11 potentially, which should be happening in spring the following year, 2018, although there's rumours that might not be the case, which isn't too positive. Apparently Chris Chibnall's first series might not be happening until September 2018 or autumn 2018, which is not a very positive sight, I have to admit. Another gap year essentially, but that's not confirmed and I won't go into that anymore here. But essentially it seems like the autumn slot would be quite a good slot for Class Series 2, and so they're going to need to, I mean, it was announced by this time last year that there was going to be a series of Class, and Series 1 started filming in April, so I feel like we'll probably know early next year if there is going to be a Series 2 of Class. And I'd be open for one, I'd be happy to see one. I mean, I'd still prefer Torchwood to Series 5. I still prefer Torchwood to Class. My opinion hasn't been swayed as of yet. Torchwood is still a better series, in my opinion, to Class. Maybe another series of Class will help sway that, but at the moment, I prefer Torchwood Series 5 to Class Series 2. But Torchwood Series 5 isn't going to happen, so I'll take Class Series 2. And well, thank you very much for listening to my rambling on what I thought of Class Series 1. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and please do let me know what you thought of Class Series 1 as a whole. Did you like it? Did you think it worked or not? Have you been one of those huge fans? Have you thought it was completely terrible? Do let me know. I'd love to hear all your opinions on Class Series 1, just to see what a few other people are thinking. So thank you very much for watching this video. Remember to like the video and subscribe if you're new here. I will be back very soon with some Doctor Who videos. Finally, it's less than 2 weeks till the return of Dr. Mysterio. I haven't done a proper Doctor Who discussion video in months, I think, really. I've been focusing on Class and my life, really. So it's finally time to get back to Doctor Who. One quick mention that Class, episodes of music, they were going to happen. I apologise they haven't happened. They are going to happen next year. I promise now, they will happen in January 2017. There will be 7 more episodes of music for Class. Every single episode, you will be able to hear every piece of music used in Class. I will get them up in January, I promise. I apologise they haven't come up yet. I've had a few problems and I've been busy, but they will come, I promise. So, thank you very much for watching. I will see you again very soon for a brand new Doctor Who video. Goodbye!